Hello everyone. In this lecture, part 3 of the last days, we'll look at our attitude in the last days. We'll explore reasons why the people of Jesus' time, they were prepared by God for a long period of time to receive Jesus as Messiah, but it was difficult for many people to accept him. We'll explore the reasons why this was, because these can be lessons for us today if we lived at the time of the second coming of Christ. Why didn't they follow him? And then leading on, what's going to happen in the last days? What's the trend toward the last days? What does God want to establish? First of all, let's look at this diagram here. This shows a line of development of the degree of spirit and truth, or the line of development of heart and intellect. You see, Adam and Eve fell at the very beginning, but Moses brought the Old Testament law, and through this, people could elevate their spirituality to the top of the formation stage. But when Jesus came with the Gospels, he brought a deeper understanding of the truth, and with the Gospels, and he could bring people to the top of the growth stage. But we expect at the time of the second coming of Christ, the Lord of the second advent, to bring a new truth, and that would bring us completely to the perfection stage. As Jesus said in John 4:23, worship the Father in spirit and truth. So what happens, according to the degree of our heart and intellect, God gives a corresponding truth. And that's what's happened throughout history. It's important to understand the importance of uniting with the central person of the age. We see these a few examples here: Noah, Moses, Jesus, and the Lord of the second advent. When Noah was preaching to the people about the coming flood, did people believe him? Maybe some did. Maybe some helped him and built the ark. But largely people mocked him. They did not believe. And then at the end they perished, except Noah's family. And every central person had this difficulty. People found it very difficult to accept God's words at the time. At the time of Moses, he was largely rejected. People followed him, but then they were constantly rebelling against him. They didn't fully accept Moses. Jesus, likewise. This is why Jesus said in John 14:6, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus applied that to himself, which is really true. But these words actually could be applied to any central person. If he lived at the time of Noah, he could say, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And there's no way to do God's work except through me, which would be true. Because God only works through one central person at a time. So God was working through Noah. Moses, likewise, he could have said the same. God works only through one central person in each age. So likewise, at the time of the Lord of the second advent, likewise, he will say the same at that time. So people tend to follow only the central person of the past. It was at the time of Abraham, for example, people didn't follow him. But when Moses came, the people said to him, oh, we know who Abraham was, but we don't know who you are. So rejected Moses. But guess what people said at the time of Jesus? They said, we followed Moses, but we don't know who you are. So you see the trend. It's easier to follow the central person of the past, but it's more challenging to accept and follow the central person in your own age So this is a lesson we need to learn. We need to, the importance of uniting with the central person of the age. The second point is the new age is always opposed by the old age. The new age doesn't begin at the end of the old age. It's not a clear cut. It begins in the middle of it, is born within it, and it grows in opposition to it, as you can see through these arrows. But it becomes eventually accepted and an established ideal. But then a new age will be, the same process will go on. A new age will begin, it will be opposed by those who are tenaciously attached to the old age. And that's why the central persons are often persecuted and rejected in their times. So likewise, at the time of the second coming of Christ, is likely to be opposed or rejected at the beginning. Third point, we need to have the attitude of a child to receive the new truth. These verses will explain that. Matthew 12:24 states, "But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, 'It is only by Beelzebul, the prince of demons, that this man casts out demons.'" So they thought Jesus' acts, his words and his deeds were from Satan. Acts 24:5 is where the response to the Apostle Paul. "We have found this man a plague, one who stirs up riots among all the Jews throughout the world, and is a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes." The Nazarenes was a name given to the early Christians, but they were considered a sect. Luke 5:38, Jesus said, "New wine must be put into fresh wineskins." In other words, they need to have an open mind, have a new mind to be able to receive the new truth. And then finally, Matthew 18:3, Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." So he's telling us clearly that you need to become like children. Why? Because a child is always wanting to learn. The child always asks questions. And when we get older, we tend to be narrow-minded. And we tend to be arrogant. So we need to be humble enough to learn. Only in this way we'll be able to find the new truth. And fourth point, every person has to decide their own way. In this diagram you see the original mind, which is attracted to the truth. The original mind always wants to follow the truth. But when you discover the truth, often you find it's at odds with your personal situation, your social prestige, what people think of you, your honor, your position or material interests. And when people met Jesus, for example, the early disciples, they were very excited to follow Jesus. And when they went home, they found out that Jesus was an unpopular figure. And so on. They might lose their job, they might lose their friends, and so on. And that was a heavy weight. So in order to follow Jesus, they would have to cut off from those attachments. And it's not easy. But each person has to decide their own way. If Peter, for example, the disciple, when Jesus asked him to follow him, what Peter said, maybe I should go and check with my local rabbi. What would he say? He'd say, don't go near Jesus. See, no one can take responsibility for your own spiritual life. You have to follow the truth for the original mind, your own original mind. Only in that way will you ever end up following the truth. We'll look now at the history of cultures. There was at one stage in history 21 to 26 cultures. And all these actually towards the 19th and 20th century have been merging into four main cultures: the Judeo-Christian culture, Hindu culture, Buddhist, Confucianist, and the Islamic culture. But we see a trend toward one unified culture. That's why we see many interfaith meetings, interreligious dialogues. There's this desire to find one unified culture. But this is a sign really of the last days, because it's God's will to bring humanity together into oneness. We're never meant to be separated. Now look at the history of conflicts. The first conflict in history was on the individual level between Cain and Abel. Or we could say before that within the individual, between the original mind and evil mind. But this has only expanded to tribes, wars against tribes, nations against nations. And then today, we have blocks of nations against blocks of nations. That's the way it is. This is very unique, beginning the 20th century, in the Cold War era. But it hasn't changed. The shape of the world is a high stage of conflict. And this can't go on forever. There's a trend toward one unified world. The history of science and religion. Religion and science have always been incompatible. The religious people believed in God, but science said there's a tendency in science to not believe in God. They believe. But today, religion and science are merging together. Many scientists who have previously tended to be atheistic, many are believing in God, and their scientific theories match that. Religious people are embracing more the scientific ideas. So a new view of truth is essential to bring one unified world, and it will certainly come about, because God is the God of science and religion. After all, religion is a teaching of internal truths, science is the understanding of external truth. But it should be one and the same truth. And finally, to restore the tree of life that was lost in the Garden of Eden. The tree of life, in Genesis 3:24, God placed a flaming sword to guard the way. If you remember, the tree of life symbolizes perfect Adam. Adam failed to realize God's lineage. But at the end of the Bible, Revelation 22:14, it states, "Blessed are those who wash their robes, that they may restore their right to the tree of life." What was lost in the Garden of Eden was God's lineage. Adam lost God's lineage. So Christ returns to establish God's lineage on the earth. And God will realize this in the world He created. God will never give up His purpose. God intended this at the very beginning with Adam and Eve to realize the ideal world based on the three blessings. Adam and Eve fell, but all of history has been guiding us back to the point where that can be realized. God will never give up His purpose. And we can see through the presentations I've shown that we surely are the last days today. And this is the great news for us. Anyway, thank you for hearing this presentation. And in the next presentation, we'll look at the purpose of the coming of the Messiah. Why Jesus came, what happened in His lifetime, why the people did not accept Him. Okay, thank you very much.